Hi there, happy Friday. So this week I have been focused on looking at how I can explain the value of working with an architect to you. And there is Kevin McCloud said that effectively in one of his books, and I can't remember which book and I can't remember the quote exactly, but paraphrasing it, he said effectively a good architect will work out free. And that really goes against a really commonly held belief that architects are really just an unnecessary expense. Certainly there are a lot of other construction professionals who believe that they do just as good a job as an architect, or basically the same thing as an architect, and actually they don't do that. They don't do the same thing as an architect, and they do a much cheaper job, but that's because they miss out a lot of the crucial design work that an architect does. And that's where the architect's value lies. And that's why other construction professionals are unable to replicate that, because they don't understand the design process as well. And then I'm talking in generalizations. There are people occasionally who have got other construction professional backgrounds who also are good at design, but that is a relatively rare and it's not a common thing. So when I'm talking about this is a generalization. So in general, an architect is going to be a much better designer than any other construction professional, and there are no other construction professionals that deliver the same or as good as a job as an architect. What they deliver is different. That's not to say that it's not good. It can be a very good job, but it's just not going to be the same job that you'll get from an architect. So that's that little rant over. And I've got 3 ways I'm going to tell you about how an architect can deliver a level of quality and value for you, value for money, that can in effect work out so that the architect's fee is, you know, in comparison to the amount of money that they've saved you, or the amount of value that you've got from their work, that they are effectively completely free, if that makes sense. So who am I? Well, I'm an architect, so obviously I'm completely biased, and I have helped own homeowners for over 10 years to improve their homes, especially to using planet-friendly design and really sensitive design for older properties. So, and I didn't say, I'm Jane. I'm Jane Leach, and I am the director of iArchitect. So the very first 2 actually come from the ability to do space efficient design, so to maximize the space and make the space that you're looking at get the most out of a smaller amount of space. And the first way that sort of approach helps you to get more value is by minimizing the size of the build that you need to do to achieve all the things that you want from your home. So I personally would start off with looking at, okay, I'll hear what the different things are that my clients would want, and then I'll say, okay, is there a way that we can achieve all of those kinds of spaces of the size and the type that's needed to do that within the footprint of the building as we've got it now, so you don't actually do any extension at all. And then if that's not possible, then I'll look at what's a smaller extension that we can do. And if that's not possible, then we look at bigger extensions. But I always start off from the smaller scale and building out from that, so that you can then, you're getting the most value for your money. You're getting the most out of what you build, and you're building as little as you need to get the most out of it. So that's the first example of space efficient design. And the second way that space efficient design well, actually, I was going to give you an example of that. So an example that I posted up a few days ago on my Facebook page was of a home design workshop that I did quite a few years ago now for a client who they had a north-facing garden that sloped down from their home, quite a steep slope, and they loved living in their back room. The back living room was the place that they really spent a lot of time in, they hung out in, and they just completely refitted a brand new kitchen into their kitchen. And they came to me and they said, well, we've just put in this brand new kitchen, but if we have to rip it out and reconfigure that, then we're okay with doing that. And I thought, well, that's a shame, because they really love this brand new kitchen that they've just fitted. And then look, what they wanted to do was they wanted to have a really nice view of the garden. They wanted to be able to go out into the garden really easily. And they were really, really keen on barbecues, and they did these legendary barbecues apparently. Sadly, I was never invited to one, but this is their thing, was having barbecues in the summer. And obviously a north facing sloping garden, not really a great kind of garden for barbecues, but they did get some sunshine in the evening at the highest part of the garden. But sadly that part of their patio was really overshadowed by a little lean-to that they had, and they used that to store overflow from the kitchen and as a utility space. And they also then had, from their back room, they had this 1980s, I'd say, conservatory that was falling down. All the double glazed units were all misted up, so you couldn't even see through them. It was just in a really bad state. You could practically push it over. And that was really big conservatory. They didn't even have anything in there. They had an old hamster cage, because their hamster had sadly died recently, so they still had the cage, and that was in the conservatory, and that was it. There was nothing in there, but it was completely blocking the view of the garden from that lovely back living room that they really enjoyed being in. So my proposal to them, they thought, oh, we're going to have to build this big extension to get the space that we want. And instead of doing that, I just said, let's just demolish the conservatory, demolish the lean-to, reconfigure slightly the kitchen, not rip it out completely, just a very slight reconfigure. We literally just need to take out one unit, and then we can put in a whole new bank of units by moving the door away from the wall and putting in a pocket door, so that they could have this more open plan space with the kitchen, but they could also close it off if they wanted to. That's something that they wanted to achieve, a bit more open plan living. But it gave them the flexibility then of having it sometimes open plan and sometimes not. And it also, by moving the door, made the kitchen have a whole wall of extra units that they weren't able to have before. So because their kitchen was brand new, they could easily go and get a whole new row of units for that, just along that wall, that would match exactly the ones that they had in the rest of the kitchen. So it wouldn't really affect their kitchen, just make it bigger. And they could then have the overflow stuff that they were keeping in the shed, they could then keep it in the kitchen, much more practical. Didn't have to go outside to go to this extra stuff that was in the shed behind. And they could also have a stacked washing machine and tumble dryer, or there was another space underneath the stairs that they could also have turned into a utility room. So by doing that and demolishing the lean-to and the conservatory, they got this great view of the garden. They were able to create this higher level patio, which would then be sunny much later into the evening, so they could really enjoy their barbecues much later into the end of the day. And they got everything that they wanted, but not by building loads of extra extension, because actually that would have caused a lot of problems with the level issues, because it is a steep sloping garden. They would have to have lots of steps and things. It just wouldn't have worked. And much cheaper, just demolish a little bit of a structural internal alteration, and that's it. They got everything that they wanted. So that's one way that I saved those clients a lot of money. And another way that architects save money through space efficient design is through not necessarily building tiny amounts, but by sort of reconfiguring the space to make it work better and to deliver more. So I'll give you an example of what, when I've done this for a client, was quite recently. 2-bed, 2 up, 2 down, terrace, and by just rejigging some of the rooms upstairs, we could, and a loft conversion. They wanted to do a loft conversion, and they wanted to do some single story extension. So I actually persuaded this client to do a bit more of an extension at the back than they'd been thinking about. They were planning to keep the existing extension that was there, and I persuaded them that it would be better to demolish that and completely start from scratch, because they were going to be able to then get a much better solution for what they wanted and get more out of it, rather than be restricted by the space that was there that wasn't quite big enough to work well. So in that case, they actually did end up building a bit more. So in a way you could say, well, it cost them more, but now they have a 3 double-bedroomed house, a bigger kitchen. They also have a downstairs loo and shower room and a utility room. So they've got a lot more valuable space. And so they've gone from a 2-bed, 2 up, 2 down, to a 3 double bedroom. And when I say 2 up, 2 down, before they had 1 large double bedroom and 1 really quite small double bedroom that only you could fit a double bed in, but it would be the sort of double bed where you could only access one side. So really it's more of a single bedroom. Whereas now they've got actually 3 double bedrooms that you could properly fit a double bed in. And so they've got then a much more valuable property as a result. I don't know what the figures are. If they were to go to an estate agent, I'm sure that they could find out what the difference in value is for their home now compared to what it was like before. But that is another way that, you know, you can deliver. Architect will deliver value, and it's therefore effectively the value is much greater than the cost of the fee. And then that brings me on to the third example, which is sort of related to that, and that is that an architect will deliver a level of design quality and a level of spatial quality that will give you a much better return on your investment. And this has been proven in many studies, and that is that buildings with an architect's design input sell or let either for more or, depending on the market, quicker than buildings that have had no architect's design input. I can't remember the exact figures on that. I think it was something like 20% more, between 10 and 20% more the sale value when it's a higher value. Obviously, when the market's depressed and prices there's negative pressure on them, then you might not achieve that greater monetary return, but certainly they're more likely to sell or let faster, which, you know, in effect can replicate certain amount of value. So those are just 3 of the ways. There are lots of other ways that architects can save clients money, for example, during the construction project, by, you know, sometimes things arise on construction sites, and as an architect you can figure out ways to design or change the design in a way that is more cost effective. Often you'll get contractors who will seek to change design, and in that case an architect can say, okay, well we can change the design that way, but then they will talk to the contractor and figure out how to do that in the most cost effective way, or not change the design and just stick with the design as it was put together and contracted for and priced for. So at every stage in the process, an architect is able to deliver a service which has the capacity to save you more money than it costs you to pay for the architect. And I think that is a really key thing that a lot of people don't understand and don't see. And it's quite frustrating as an architect, as you can imagine, to just be thought of as some sort of unnecessary frivolous expense. Well, we're not. Architects are not just an unnecessary frivolous expense. We actually do provide a good value service, and it's worth spending that money on an architect. It's up to you entirely in the UK whether you work with an architect or not. You don't have to. There's no legal requirement to work with an architect, and as a result it is essential for architects to make sure that we do provide that value for money and do deliver a quality service. And so, yeah, there's poor architects out there, of course there are, but in general an architect is going to deliver you much better value for money than you might think. And that's it. Okay, that's my rant for the day. I hope I bust some myths there, and I look forward to speaking to you again next Friday. Bye for now.